Listener discretion is advised.
Okay. All right. You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh,
Sure do.
my God.
And full disclosure, we are attempting to record this before noon, so we're all a hot mess.
I've been up since 7:30. I went to get my prescriptions today. I took a shower. I called the bank.
You have mania.
I do. Well, I woke up with an upset stomach when my alarm, but right before my alarm went off, because my body responding to being awake before 9 a.m. is like violent nausea.
Yep.
So I was like, well, I'm up now. Puked a little bit, took a shower. I was like, well,
Might as well use the day.
might as well use the fucking day.
Oh my God.
Well, I set my alarm so we're recording this at 11 a.m. my time. I set my alarm for 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up when you texted 20 minutes before time.
Which I did
Everybody's
intentionally
awake, right?
to make sure you were awake specifically.
Yeah, that wasn't targeted to me.
Oh, I know. I know who I am. There's no evolution, but
No.
there is awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No improvement,
No.
but you accept it. It's a part of your identity.
I can't
Children
help
will
it.
change you one day by force.
Maybe. Or
You
I'll
won't
just have
like
weird
it.
little night owls.
Oh, God.
Oh God.
I mean,
That'll
the
make
reason
you
I am
worse.
this way is because my mom's a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
She worked a lot of different jobs, weird hours, and I was
Mm-hmm.
up late and slept in late. And like, she brought me to one daycare where they were like, it's nap time. And she was like, she just woke up.
It's not
Like-
gonna happen.
Like,
Stop
it's-
trying to make nap happen. It's not gonna happen.
Like, this schedule's not going to work. She had to fully change me to a different daycare
I love it.
because my.
Pull her out.
It's who I am.
Speaking of who you are,
Oh.
that was my
Kenyon.
fault. I derailed it. That was not you. Hi, Kenyon.
Hi.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Amanda. I'm Amanda.
It's who I am.
It's who I am.
It's what it's.
It's what it's.
So we have a very special fan pick brought to you this week by Allie Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm
Allie,
excited for this. Also, this airs like on or around Halloween, right?
Oh, I think
I think so.
In the ballpark.
close to Halloween.
In the
So-
ballpark.
Allie has selected the topic of suspected Satanists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit of satanic panic, but also a little bit of like signs, soup, def point towards the occult.
Oh, not in my case.
Oh, in my case,
They really missed the mark in my case. They really fucked up.
there are lots of different reasons one might suspect Satanists, but most actual practicing Satanists, totally fine.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. Satanists are super chill.
Yes.
Satanists? Fuck.
They're
Satanists
basically Lutherans, but without the God.
Yeah, they are.
Just
Lot
chilling.
like Lutherans. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's get right to our wine crime pairing, Amanda.
They might beg to differ, but
I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, clearly we're not fucking drinking wine this morning. Deal with it. It's what it's.
We're 34.
Mm-hmm.
I got
already. Oh, nice. I already puked this morning. I'm not doing it to myself again before noon. But I wanted to honor one of our favorite people in the world today by making my own little take on a London fog latte a la M.
Oh,
Schultz of
Em.
And That's Why We Drink.
Em loves
Cutie.
the London fog.
Big time. So mine is not technically a London fog because it's an English breakfast, like a nice, strong English breakfast tea. But I don't have a steamer, but I heated up my almond milk and just a little dash of vanilla, and it is working.
That sounds great. I usually don't take milk in my tea unless it's chai, but that sounds really good.
It's so good. And if you let that those like black teas steep longer, then the milk isn't just tasting like watered down milk. Because I've had that problem with milk in tea before as well, where it just kind of tastes like wet milk.
Yeah. British people right now are probably like screaming because they have like a whole ritual. They have a tea altar in their homes. It is suspected Satanism.
And Americans,
tea there.
Americans,
there's a lot of ritual.
We never let our tea steep long enough in British opinion. Ever.
I will use the American quick fix of 2 tea bags.
Oh,
for
that's nice.
Stronger flavor, but still fast results.
Yeah. We're a little impatient here stateside.
I did buy, one more tea fact, and then I swear we'll get to the episode. I did buy
Hashtag
tea facts.
Hashtag tea bags. I bought this chai black tea at Target, and it's really good. It's like the Target Good and Gather or whatever. Chai black tea. It's so good.
I love.
Check it out.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, great job. You did it. That's
did it.
That's my wine crime pairing. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I hope that
Sometimes you gotta drink non-alcoholic beverages too.
sometimes you do. You gotta nourish your body. Yeah.
You gotta care for your vessel.
Once a year,
It's very
we care for our
fragile.
vessel.
Yeah, my vessel's hanging on by a thread. All right, Lucy, what is our background and maybe psych for suspected Satanists?
There's no psych.
I
Let me get my
suspected
goat
that.
bones. There's a lot going on here. So
Lots to
I
unpack.
am mostly going to cover like the roots of modern day Satanism.
Great.
Cool.
Love it.
So Satanism is defined as any of various religious or countercultural practices and movements centered on the figure of Satan, the devil, regarded in Christianity and Judaism as the embodiment of absolute evil.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of Jews would say that there is no Satan or devil in their belief structure.
We'll get to it
Okay.
a little bit. It's more to do with like the dichotomy of good and evil.
Okay.
Which is fairly unique to Judaism and Christianity in terms of like historical religious
Context.
Yeah.
hierarchies.
In like polytheistic religions, it's like all the gods are kind of good and evil.
Yeah.
They
Got it.
contain multitudes.
Yep. Satanism is a modern, largely non-theistic religion based on literary, artistic, and philosophical interpretations of the central figure of evil, aka the devil. To Christians, sinners are sent to hell, which is Satan's domain. In hell, sinners suffer fiery torture and sadistic suffering for all of time, blah, blah, blah. It might seem logical in a moral binary sense that we are accustomed to in modern times, but actually the devil didn't appear until the dualistic doctrine of ancient Zoroastrianism. Very hard to say.
The mask
Glad
of
we're-
Zoroastrianism.
Glad we're not drinking today. Zoroastrianism is a pre-Islamic religion that thrived in what is now India, at the time Persia, and it was marked by both monotheistic and dualistic characteristics. It also had a big ol' influence on both Christianity and Judaism. I had to do some research about Zoroastrianism at the food magazine that I used to work at.
For like a
Interesting.
holiday segment? Like,
One of my regular columns was about global cuisine. And one of the recipes that I was making was like a braised lamb stew kind of a thing. And I had to interview the woman who came up with the recipe, and it was like this family recipe. I had to go all over town looking for like specific spices. It was very cool.
ooh, I like that.
So I wrote this whole thing about Zoroastrianism, and my editor was like, this is
This
is
is
a lot.
not the assignment.
yeah.
This is not going to be one of our main articles.
So this is why I love my job now. I get to talk about what I think is interesting. and not just this fucking spice that most readers hadn't heard of before. God forbid I go into the cultural importance of it.
Oh, right.
Jesus.
Jeez, what were you thinking?
I've broken the chains of consumer magazines.
Get it. Get it.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, so Zoroastrianism, by the way, also influenced Pythagoras and varying levels of astrology and magic and mathematics. So I think that's very cool. Obviously, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I like 2 out of 3 of those things.
Yeah, mathematics not being one of them.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to sound like a huge dork, but what do you...
When you think about it at the time.
The history of math is basically
Really
magic.
I mean, I can
alchemy
appreciate that and hate it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not a monster.
If they taught us math
in the
from
magical
a
way,
history standpoint, I
Would've
would
been
have
into
been way more into it.
would have been into it.
If they were like,
1,000%.
we didn't know anything, and then we wanted to like build shit, and so we had to like figure it out, and like literally like a handful of individual humans
Geniuses.
figured it out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we had global commerce.
Yeah.
Like,
I would have been way more
wild.
into it.
It's math is fucking wild, y'all.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, no more consumer magazines for me. Okay. Then we see the devil in Jewish Kabbalism. Kabbalism?
Probably Kabbalism, Kabbalah.
Jewish Kabbalism. I'm going to be neutral about it. And he's named Satan in the Bible's Book of Enoch, which where he is one of the members of a group of fallen angels called the Watchers. Sounds like a Marvel comic.
Absolutely,
really does.
It probably is.
Probably.
Yeah.
Who watches the Watchers?
Yeah.
The Watchmen.
Yeah.
In the book of Revelations in the New Testament, he's described as the ultimate evil. And this Christian New Testament reference is where the modern perception of Satan kind of stems from.
Classic.
Dante's Inferno is an early example of Satan being sort of a romantic anti-hero. And you may have heard of Baphomet, who is an enduring satanic symbol created by occult author Arliss Perry.
Very
Got
much
it.
featured in the acclaimed film Hereditary.
Oh, I've never heard of this. I'm baffled.
Nice.
Yeah, lots
Nice.
of baffling Baphomets in Hereditary. I had to Google it after I saw the movie to like fully piece together what the
It's a
fuck
lot.
just happened.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So LaVey describes him as the horned goat deity named Baphomet in his 1854 book Dogma et Rituel.
Et tu dogma et rituel.
Yes, which linked Baphomet with Satan. And this was probably a French misinterpretation of the name Mohammed, where they got Baphomet. But he was the deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshiping in trials in the 14th century. In the 19th century, William Blake's Paradise Lost was another early modern rendition of Satan. But it's kind of a modern, the way we think of Satan now is fairly modern,
Really
which
has
I think
not
is interesting.
existed that long. Like
No.
Satan and Santa Claus are like contemporaries.
Coca-Cola invented them both.
The Coca-Cola
But,
Christmas
like,
Satan
close.
bears.
Yeah, like not far off. So technically, Satanism wasn't a thing until the 1960s. Historically, it was just known as devil worship. And like I said before, it was
Boring.
unique to the Judeo-Christian devil and the explicit rejection of God and Jesus Christ. It was based on the Black Mass and ritual magic practices. Satanical cults have been documented in Europe and North America dating back to the 17th century, but it's really hard to tell the accuracy of numbers and prevalence of these groups because they've definitely been exaggerated by other religious groups, particularly Christians.
Sure.
They worship the devil.
So is it basically just like a, for lack of a better word, like perversion or I guess inversion of like Wicca or like, traditional pagan practices, but then so infused with like the Christian framework that they had to like flip it on its head.
I would say it's a deep, fundamental misunderstanding of pagan practices on some levels, but it's also just in general othering groups, like the way that it's been exaggerated. Well, here, let me just read this quote. This is from my lover, Encyclopedia Britannica. Roman Catholic churchmen readily attributed Satanism to witches and to such heretics as the Gnostics, Cathari, and Bogomils. I had not heard of those last two, but basically both of these groups believed that the material world is inherently evil. So when the Catholic Church, for example, was sort of revamping its image and there were all these riches and robes and beautiful churches, they were like, no, that's not what goodness is about. That's not what we want to be about. And the church was like, well, fuck you. You worship the devil now. Congrats. But that charge does not correspond to the heretics' own understanding of their beliefs, and the alleged Satanism of those persecuted in the heyday of witch burning may rest on no better foundation than the overheated imagination of witch finders and confessions obtained by torture, a la the Salem witch trials.
I need to look up witchfinders.com because I feel like that needs to exist.
Oh, it probably does.
I'm going to scoot over my John Travoltify name generator and search for witchfinders.
Your search history.
I need to throw out my computer and burn my house. The domain is available. I could buy it for $3,000. Why is it so expensive? I'm not doing that.
No, of course not.
We're not doing that.
GoDaddy would never do that to you.
No, but huge domains would, apparently. Huge.
So modern witchcraft and neo-paganism are not to be confused with historical Satanism, to your point.
They're very different.
Since those groups worship non-Judeo-Christian deities.
And they don't
those
even believe in Satan or the
Right.
devil.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I'm agreeing with you.
not that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Historical Satanism as devotion to the Judeo-Christian source of evil can exist only in symbiosis with that tradition because it shares but inverts its worldview. So periodically, mainly the Christian church would include so-called devil worshippers during times include, I think I meant exclude. What am I saying? Whatever. I wrote this. This is completely my fault. So these would ramp up during times when they were persecuting other religious groups, such as during the Black Death, the Spanish Inquisition, various witch hysterias in Europe and colonial America, and the Satanic Panic in the 1980s, which I will refresh our memories on in just a moment. Also, the French aristocracy under Louis XIV, the 14th, was positively titillated by tales of nude demonic rituals, and the prim and proper Victorian period also saw a spike in interest too.
I mean, it makes a good story. I will give you that.
It's titillating.
It's very tittillating.
And for folks who are so, like Lucy said, like so steeped in the Christian worldview, it makes sense that the way that they would rebel would still be colored by that worldview.
Right. It's such like a binary, you're either like it's
good or
either
bad.
God or Satan, good or bad.
Right.
Like, very
It would
black
have
and
been
white.
like more radical to be like atheist
right.
than Satanist.
Right, because the Satanism still alludes to a belief in a God, a higher God,
Yeah.
and like
We'll
a
get
Christian
to
God.
it. Oh,
Very
we'll
interesting.
get to it.
Very interesting.
that's why I'm not that into it.
I mean,
I feel like
I'm
it.
freaked out by like most organized religion, but
Yeah.
some are just so much more understandable and like gentle than others. Christianity is horrifying to me.
Yeah.
It's not my jam.
It scares the shit
not
out of
my
me.
jam, but you do you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have talked about Satanic Panic in, I think, the board games episode that we did, because we talked about Dungeons and Dragons, but here's just a quick
I feel like
little
we've
recap.
also done like, I don't know, more Satanism episode. But yeah, we've definitely covered this.
Yeah. So the Satanic Panic is a moral panic over thousands of unsubstantiated incidents of SRA, or satanic ritual abuse. There's a fucking acronym for it.
Jesus.
The panic started in the U.S. around the 80s with a book called Michelle Remembers, which was co-written by a Canadian psychiatrist with and about his patient, later his wife, Michelle Smith.
That's not ethical.
Well, wasn't it like
None of this. It's-
helping them rediscover memories?
Basically, he purported to use recovered memory therapy, which has
Yep.
since been proven to be complete bullshit, to get Michelle
Absolute nonsense.
to talk about the SRA that she experienced earlier in her life. So this panic took hold in the U.S. and eventually worldwide, with the most dramatic allegations being a conspiracy of a global satanic cult, including the wealthy and powerful world elite and Hollywood, that traffics children for human sacrifices, pornography, and sexual abuses. This sounds
Y'all,
familiar.
QAnon and
And
Pizzagate.
pizza parlors.
Wake up,
QAnon and
sheeple.
Pizzagate have been around for a long fucking time. This
It's
is one
the
of the
same
first
shit
political conspiracies.
Nothing new under the sun.
No, we just repeat our same bullshit over and over again and never fucking
People
learn.
are so fucking stupid. Okay.
And when you peel back enough layers, the core is usually anti-Semitism.
Yeah, some form of white supremacy, which includes all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't until the early 20th century that Satan really became a pop culture icon that we know him as today.
God bless.
This is from History.com. Legendary occultist Aleister Crowley viewed Satan symbolically. His 1913 poem called A Hymn to Lucifer celebrated the devil as the provider of soul and rebellion to the universe.
So they just did an episode on Aleister Crowley in Stuff You Missed in History class. And it was very
Ooh,
interesting.
that's a great
Check it out. It like
podcast.
just
Yeah.
came out.
Cool. So Crowley's ideas were influential in Satanism. One offshoot from this crowd was the German group Fraternitas Saturni in 1926. Its founder was Gregor A. Gregorius, and he wrote Satanisch Magi. I'm nailing all of this. It's German. I don't know. Which borrowed heavily from the Romantics and adopted Satan within the group's astrological system.
Ooh.
That group still exists, and Gregorius's writing has been used in Satanist practices.
Cool.
But the official Satanic Church, the Church of Satan, was formed by Anton LaVey, a San Francisco native who, according to some, left high school. Don't do this, kids. Left high school to join the circus and was subsequently employed as a psychic and nightclub organist.
Oh. Wait,
I mean,
nightclub
as you
like played
do.
the organ at a nightclub?
Yes.
I need to go to that nightclub immediately. Where?
I mean,
It was
sounds
the 60s, baby.
like, look, I'm not gonna lie. Like, don't do that, kids. But
maybe do
you'll
it.
rack up some life experience.
Yeah.
I
you know what?
Might go on to
I'm
start
all
your
in.
own church.
Go. Be free. Play your organ in a nightclub. But an actual, like, instrument organ.
Yeah.
Because that could really sound like I'm saying go jack off publicly in a nightclub, and that's not what I mean.
There's some. So, do you guys remember the show Wife Swap?
Mm-hmm.
The voiceover person was like really mocking sometimes.
Yes.
So, like at the beginning of one
Beautifully
episode,
mocking. Yeah.
they're introducing like kind of the loser family. You know, there's like the overachiever family and then kind of the lazy family.
Yeah.
They were introducing this nerdy fucking dad, and the voiceover guy was like, meanwhile, Brian plays with his organ in the basement all day. And he's like playing on an organ.
Yeah. It's like you chose your words very intentionally, and we see you.
So fucking good. Okay. So Anton LaVey developed an interest in the occult and in 1966 dubbed himself the High Priest of the Church of Satan.
You can just be the high whatever you want of whatever church of whatever you want.
Yep.
It's San Fran in the 60s. There were no rules.
It was the Wild West.
Yeah. 3 years later, he published the Satanic Bible. Again, here's a quote from Encyclopedia Britannica. LaVey presented Satanism not as the practice of evil or as the worship of an actual antichrist, but as a kind of ethical egoism. Because like we were saying, in order to believe in Satan, you have to believe in God.
Right.
And that sort of binary worldview doesn't always work for, you know, Satanists or practicers of the occult.
Okay.
According to LaVey, traditional religions were fundamentally hypocritical and dangerous, inhibited by the physical tendencies and emotional needs that were vital to human life. He claimed that his brand of Satanism was inspired by having noticed as a teenager that the men he saw at church on Sunday praying to God for absolution were the same ones he had seen at burlesque shows on Saturday night.
He's not wrong.
LaVey's Satanism was in fact atheistic. The opposition between God and Satan represented for him the struggle between hypocrisy and repression on the one hand and indulgence and liberation on the other.
So it's just more hedonism.
Exactly. And actually, if you go to the drive, I have 3 pictures of Anton LaVey. They are labeled Anton 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And he is very dramatic. He looks like Vincent Price.
Oh.
He's got like a
yeah.
like a stash.
I've
really
seen
sharp
this guy.
eyebrows.
Not like in real life, but like photos of him.
He has
Yeah.
a flair for
I
the
want
dramatic.
that silk blouse. That
The
is a
silk
good blouse.
is really good.
But
Yeah.
I
didn't
love a
he do
cinched
some
top.
shit that really wasn't great
Oh, I'm sure he's terrible.
And not
He's a white
ethical.
man with bad facial hair.
and
Probably.
like power?
Yeah.
Look at his little devil costume, his Halloween costume.
He does. I like the
know.
one of him with the snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure he was a horrible person. Well,
Yeah.
I know that he lied about having relationships with Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
whatever.
he's not great,
No,
but he
I
knows
also
how to
didn't-
dress.
I didn't go too in depth with Anton LaVey because that wasn't what I chose to focus on this
Yeah.
week. So just and here's bursting his bubble a little bit. This is an incredible Time review of LaVey from 1972.
Yes.
So
I love a scathing review in the Times.
yeah. LaVey's church and its branches might well be called the Unitarian wing of the occult. The members invest themselves with some of the most flamboyant trappings of occultism, but magic for them is mostly psychodrama or plain old carnival hokum. They invoke Satan not as a supernatural being, but as a symbol of man's self-gratifying ego, which is what they really worship. They look down on those who actually believe in the supernatural, evil or otherwise. LaVey's church is organized, incorporated, and protected under the laws of California. The most striking thing about the members of the Church of Satan is that instead of being exotic, they are almost banal in their normality. Their most insidious contribution to evil is their resolute commitment to man's animal nature, stripped of any spiritual dimension or thought of self-sacrifice. Under the guise of eschewing hypocrisy, they actively pursue the materialistic values of the affluent society without any twinge of conscience to suggest there might be something more. I'm into it.
Yeah.
So they're like, we don't actually worship Satan. It's ironic.
It's
Yeah.
an ironic
hip.
hedonist. Yeah, it's basically.
Okay.
It's pointing out the hypocrisy of organized religion, essentially, under the guise of an organized religion.
It's
Okay.
Minnetonka
It's
High
satire.
School's underground, the Lost Entertainment section of
Yeah.
religion.
It's religious satire.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah,
I can respect that.
and
Interesting.
not all Satanists not all Satanists fit under this category.
Yeah,
Sure.
like
this
Church
is-
of Satan definition.
Right.
Obviously, but it's just kind of weird, and it sort of points to the hypocrisy of religion in general, but also some of the reasons why this sort of moment in pop culture was so easy to people people could easily be blamed for practicing something like
Right.
this because it's so ridiculous.
And they were trying to get attention, and there
Yep.
were like news articles and whatever.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
that's my segment.
Interesting.
Well
Well
done.
done.
I hope it gives us some good background for what we're going to talk about today.
It's very pertinent to my segment, and I do repeat like one of the things that you said, but that was awesome.
okay, great.
Much appreciated.
Are we ready for my case?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
possibly.
I'm sorry I'm doing like bewitched nose, but I have a sneeze that's percolating.
Push it.
Okay.
Don't push it.
So-
That's how people have a stroke.
Push it out. I don't think that's real. I don't think
I
what
just
you
made
just
that
said
up.
is real. Yeah.
Push it and then it'll get stuck in your stomach and then it'll grow a bubblegum tree.
Yeah.
And your belly button will turn red.
Oh my God.
My dad told me that's what
Put
happens
hair
if
on your chest.
when you eat cherries. It turns your belly button red.
Where? Why?
Because he wanted my cherries, so he wouldn't let me eat them.
Oh my God. Monster.
All right. So this case is pretty famous, but we haven't covered it before. I was like panicking because I was like, this is too familiar, but it's just a famous case.
It was the fan picker case, too.
Yes. And we've definitely all on tour watched like a Forensic Files episode about this case.
Okay. I never remember anything. I have the memory of a goldfish, so I
You
can't wait.
remember all the hype notes in every single song.
Yeah, but that's it. Like that's taken up residency in my brain. There's no room for anything else. So
A lot
I
of
get,
obscure office quotes.
I get to experience these moments for the first time like a newborn baby.
Fresh
Can't tell if
from
it's a
the
gift or a
womb.
curse.
It's both.
Why not both?
Who
Okay.
are you? Who are you?
Just like that. All right. Arliss Perry was born Arliss K. Dykema in 1955 and grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Oh,
She
ever
is
heard of it?
fresh. There are photos on the drive.
Cutie pie.
In August of 1974, when she was 19.
Look at that smile.
I know, isn't she fresh?
And the
Arliss's
lapel.
bangs are amazing.
Mhm.
In August of 1974, when she was 19, she married her high school sweetheart, Bruce Perry, and took his last name.
Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you had married your high school sweetheart and then get really bad heartburn and then cry in the shower?
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure it's not just me.
Yep.
It's not just you.
Cool. All right. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing to see here.
It's not just you. I can see it so clearly.
Uh-huh.
It actually wouldn't be terrible, but I would not be the wonderful life that I have now.
I think you'd be okay. I'd be screwed.
You'd be screwed.
You'd be screwed.
I'd be dead.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to whore around a little bit before.
Uh-huh.
Oh, big,
Yeah.
big same.
Yeah.
No
What life's
regrets.
about. Anyway.
Getting railed by idiots in college.
You got to. Just get railed by an idiot.
By a fucking moron.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to talk. So
It's best if he doesn't.
Bruce was about to start his sophomore year as a pre-med student at Stanford, so not an idiot.
Okay.
And Arliss joined him when he moved back to campus that fall, and then they moved into married student housing together because that was like a much more common thing. And she found a job working as a receptionist at a local law firm.
Mm-hmm. Good for her.
Then, only about 6 weeks after their marriage, on the evening of October 12th, 1974. Oh my God, it's October 12th as we record this.
No!
Oh my God. Uh-oh.
Oh, I just got chills.
How many years ago was that? 50,
666.
53, 57. I gotta pull up my calculator.
Everything hurts.
What is it?
Keep-
2021?
Yep.
Yeah.
Minus 1974. 47 years.
Wow.
A mere 47 years ago.
Oh. Anyway.
So on October 12th, we just
Ugh.
spooked ourselves for no reason.
Fuck.
The couple got into an argument. Again, they're fucking teenagers
They're
who are
children.
married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The child husband and bride got into an argument. Their Barbies were fighting.
It was a dumb argument about
Yeah.
whether or not they needed to check their car's tire pressure. And
You
I'm
do.
guessing, yeah,
If you
exact-
need to ask. Yeah, you
yeah.
do.
If your wife wants you to check the tire pressure, just check
Just fucking
tire pressure.
do it. Ask
Just
for
do it.
directions.
Just do it.
I've been in this argument.
I'm about to drive to Omaha with my husband. He better fucking check. I'm going to
Text him right now.
Better
check the tire
fucking
pressure.
tire pressure.
So this argument broke out as they were walking together to check their mailbox. But it grew heated enough that Arliss, who was devoutly religious, told her husband that she wanted to go pray alone in order to cool down.
You know it's bad if your partner is going, I need to go pray on this alone.
Yeah. I mean, like, healthy
Yes.
boundaries.
But you fucked up.
But yeah, check the goddamn tire pressure. So
He's arguing with me about whether to check the tire.
God damn it. Tell him you need to pray on it.
yeah.
I need to pray on.
Tell him
need
not to
pray on
bother
it.
you because
You need to pray on this.
Yeah. Sir, you need to pray on this.
I've texted it. He has no idea what's going on.
He's still in bed, probably.
No, he's at work.
Oh, right. He has a day job. I
You need to
forget.
pray on this.
I need
There's
to pray on
bubbles.
this.
There's bubbles.
There's dots.
He's typing.
3 dots.
What in the hell are you talking about?
Okay, so as Lucy,
Prayer hands.
okay,
As Corey worries that this will be his last day on Earth, we continue our case.
okay. I hope you got your laughs out because then it gets
Oh,
really
fuck.
fucking dark. Okay, so she walked to the Stanford Memorial Church on campus, and Bruce returned home alone. At this point, it's around 11:30 p.m. So, like,
That's late.
that's a little bit late to be out alone.
Praying.
Yes, if I'm
Praying.
drunk. Churches
On power,
are open all
maybe.
night.
On life. When Arliss had still not returned home by 3 a.m.,
Ooh, scary.
Bruce, who had been growing increasingly concerned, called the Stanford police to report her missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not blaming him, but I feel like I would have maybe gone and checked on her a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Earlier
Sooner.
than that.
Maybe he fell asleep and then woke up at 3 and she wasn't there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
totally do that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
my shithole husband's not home. I get the whole bed to myself. And then get up to
Yep.
piss at 3 a.m. and go, oh, fuck.
He's still not home.
He's still not out.
Mhm.
I wonder if he turned around and walked back into the strip club like that time that my ex-partner did that when we were leaving the strip club.
Let's remind ourselves of that incident off air.
Oh, it was the best. I went to a strip club with Rhymes with Flan,
Okay.
and we had a wonderful time.
With like a
and-
group of friends.
Well, no, there was one other friend with us.
A small group.
It was a small, 3 is a small group. And I was like, it was the end of the night. I was a little horned up. I was like, let's go home. Let's take this adventure to the bedroom. And he's like, okay. And I had biked there. So I got on my bike and he came outside with me and he was going to get in a cab. And I was like, okay, I'll see you back at the house. And then I get home and like half an hour goes by. He's still not home. Another
He
like
went back in.
he had turned around and just went back into the strip club with our friend and just stayed there.
Oh my
It
God.
got home at like 3 a.m.
No.
Yeah.
No. That was the beginning of the end.
It should have been, but I was young and stupid.
Kenyon's face.
I knew that story, but rehearing it is still a lot.
Yeah.
To process.
You biked there.
I biked home
home.
from the strip club.
I assumed that you had like gotten in an argument and he went back inside.
Oh, we got in an argument later. We lived together and he just ghosted me.
I can't.
After the promise of sex.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Okay. So anyway,
Fucking idiot.
he's going on my list.
Oh, he's on mine.
All right. So that's fucked up. So anyway, Bruce called the Stanford police to report her missing, and Stanford police contacted the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, which sent some officers over to investigate. However,
To the church?
Well, that was the last place that he
He knew she was heading.
Yeah.
Because she was
That's
like,
where the cops went?
they probably went
yes.
to his house and checked in with him and then
okay.
Yeah.
figured out where he knew she was last or thought he knew she was.
That's what I'm assuming happened as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, when the officers arrived at the church, they found all of the doors locked and no sign of anyone around.
Ooh.
They interviewed a campus security guard who was on duty that night named Stephen Blake Crawford, and he told them that he had locked the doors to the church shortly before midnight and while making his rounds had checked the church again around 2 a.m., but found the doors still locked and reported seeing nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Then, around 5:45 a.m., Crawford, who actually, so this is the security guard, and he actually was a former Stanford police officer himself, contacted police to report that he had discovered a body in the church. So probably when he unlocked it in the morning and was checking inside.
Oh, yeah.
According to one unconfirmed report, his exact words when he contacted police were, "Hey, we've got a stiff here."
Oh my God. Like, okay, a little casual.
Little cash.
Oh, but
Little
I guess
too
you're
cash.
saying he used to be a cop, right?
He used to be a cop.
Okay, then, all right. Now, yeah, okay. It's still shitty, but
Yeah.
okay.
So when police arrived to investigate, Crawford led them to Arliss's body. The church was laid out in the shape of a cross, and her body was in one of the arms of the cross near an altar. So like towards the, I don't know if you would call that, I guess you would call that the back,
Mm-hmm.
and on one of the sides. She had been stabbed in the back of the head with an ice pick.
No.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah, this 19-year-old little bitty baby.
Oh.
Yikes.
And then placed face up with her hands folded across her chest.
Ugh.
So like,
Like,
positioned.
yeah, the post-mortem positioning, that really freaks me the fuck out.
Mhm.
I
Ritualistic.
don't like it.
The ice pick, and I told you this is going to be brutal, and we got to thank our fan picker.
Uh-huh.
The ice pick remained in her head, but the handle had broken off and was nowhere to be seen.
Oh,
Oh, my Lord.
okay.
She was naked from the waist down, and a 3-foot-long altar candle had been used to...
No.
Ooh.
No.
I'm not going to say it. And
Yeah.
then another was placed between her breasts.
Ugh.
The jeans that she had been wearing were arranged over her legs in the shape of a diamond, so like weirdly folded.
Hmm.
In addition to the ice pick injury, fatal injury, there were also signs of strangulation. Raul Niemeyer, a since retired Stanford police captain, later said in an interview, quote, "I could not believe what I was seeing. I had a few homicides in my day, but I had never seen anything so eerie."
That is brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Ish.
When he was interviewed again by police, Crawford, the security guard, told them that he discovered the body when he had returned to the church to open it for the day. He also reported that he had found a door on the west side of the church open and that it appeared to have been forced open from the inside.
Okay, so it's like someone was lurking in there.
Somebody was hidden in there.
Huh.
Because he had checked all the doors, presumably
Right.
if he was doing his job, according to
Right.
him, he had like checked all the doors earlier in the night at like 2 a.m.
Right.
And everything seemed okay from the outside,
Uh-huh.
but he hadn't checked inside. So Ken Kahn, who was a detective with the Santa Clara Police Department at the time, said in later interviews that one of their initial theories was that Arliss had gotten locked inside the church with her killer and that, quote, he snuck up behind her, murdered her, and then broke out the side door.
Oh.
The crime scene did contain some physical evidence, including semen that was found on a kneeling pillow near her body.
Oh. Ugh.
And a partial palm print that was found on one of the altar candles.
Okay.
Both the semen and the palm print were tested against both the husband, Bruce Perry, and the guard, Stephen Crawford, but neither was found to be a match.
Okay.
There was also speculation that Arliss's murder could be connected to 2 other murders of young women in the Stanford area that had taken place in the past year, but police did not believe it was the same killer.
Okay.
So these 2 murders were of 21-year-old Janet Ann Taylor and 21-year-old Leslie Perlov. And so, like, the age fit, but anyway. So these would eventually be attributed to a man named John Gautreaux. Gautreaux? I don't know how you're supposed to say that. After new DNA evidence came to light in 2018. So very recently. It took a very long time to solve both of these.
Yeah.
And similarly, Arliss Perry's murder would go unsolved for more than 40 years.
Damn.
In this time, a link developed between Arliss's murder and the Son of Sam killings. So we have covered Son of Sam. I know I covered him for... Maybe that was the case where we talked a lot about satanic panic. I don't know.
What's that episode?
It's come up a lot.
It has.
So this is because after David Berkowitz wrote several letters to authorities and journalists in which he claimed to have information about the murder. After his arrest, he sent letters from prison to multiple California law enforcement officers claiming to have learned details of the murder from a man who had done it, a man he referred to as Manson II.
Ooh.
Okay.
In one 1979 letter, he wrote, Arliss, which he misspelled, Perry, hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California, Stanford University.
Oh.
In 1981, Detective Ken Kahn got a letter from Berkowitz in which he claimed that he had once attended a cult meeting in Queens, during which a member of the cult claimed to have committed the murder. I don't know why we're listening so much to this guy who thought that his neighbor's dog was Satan, but
Talking
fine.
to it. Yeah.
So Kahn, the detective, along with other investigators, traveled to New York to interview Berkowitz about this claim, but Berkowitz refused to reveal the killer's identity.
Oh, weird. I wonder why.
Jesus.
Kahn concluded that, quote, Berkowitz didn't really know anything about the case and was just kind of jerking us around for attention and whatever.
Yeah.
An investigative reporter named Maury Terry traveled to Bismarck. Remember, that's where
she's from, right?
where she's from, to interview Arliss's family and friends, largely based on his interest in the Son of Sam connection to the case, which there is no connection besides David Berkowitz trying to invent one, but at least it got some attention, I guess. I don't know. He did not learn much, but did hear a strange anecdote about some confusion that had arisen from someone with Bruce's exact name living on the Stanford campus.
A quick anecdote.
Causing Bruce and Arliss's loved ones to have a hard time getting in touch with them after they first moved to campus.
Interesting.
In a September 27th, 1974 letter to her friend that was shown to Maury Terry, Arliss wrote, quote, I had to laugh about your call to Bruce Perry. Mrs. Perry made the same mistake. She called them too, but the strange part of it is that his name is not only Bruce Perry, but it is Bruce D. Perry. And not only that, it is Bruce Duncan Perry, and he attends Stanford University, and he just got married this summer. One thing, his wife's name is not Arliss. Anyway, next time you get the urge to call, the number is blah, blah. This time, I guarantee you'll get the right Bruce Perry.
Bruce. They're both named Bruce Duncan Perry.
That's an odd coinky dink.
It is really weird.
Terry also, so the journalist, also learned that a rumor had been going around in Bismarck that there was a cult in town, and that before her move to Stanford, Arliss had gone to one of their meetings with a friend in an attempt to convert them to Christianity. Because remember, she was very devout.
Right.
There was speculation in town that Arliss had learned something she wasn't supposed to know, and that the cult had followed her to California and killed her, and then this would align with the Son of Sam claim that she had been followed to California.
Who has time?
Right?
Without the internet.
Yeah.
That's a lot more work.
yeah.
This Bismarck cult.
Right.
Yeah.
Small town Dakotas.
Yeah. However, as these rumors only arose after Arliss's death, they were likely just a reaction to some of the gruesome details in the case and people, making shit up. Despite no new leads emerging for decades, the case of Arliss's murder remained open and was routinely reviewed by the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office, probably because it was just so horrific and brutal and she was so young. Then in 2018, as a result of more advanced DNA testing, police were able to match Stephen Blake Crawford's DNA to DNA that had been left on Arliss's clothing.
No way.
That's the janitor?
The security guard.
No way. The one they cleared?
The
The
ex-cop?
ex-cop?
Uh-huh.
Not at all surprised.
Okay.
Huh? Yep.
He who smelt it fucking dealt it. And
We got a stiffen here.
that's all. We have a stiff. I can't. What a fucking piece of shit.
That is fucking brutal. Ugh.
On June 28th, 2018,
Ugh.
police arrived at Crawford's residence in San Jose, California. However, 73-year-old Crawford locked his door and shot himself in the head with a pistol before he could be arrested.
Fucking asshole.
You know
So
she wasn't
just-
the only one either.
Oh, absolutely not. With a display
No,
like that, a literal display. He's done something like this fucking before. And probably hidden behind all the satanic panic bullshit. He gets his jollies and deflects culpability.
Folds her
Ugh.
jeans. And
Ugh.
all of a sudden, it's a Satanist.
She was just there trying to pray.
Yep. Because her husband was being a
Mid-prayer.
turd.
She was probably kneeling, praying, and he came up behind her.
Ugh. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
When police searched his home after his death, they found the jacket cover of Maury Terry's book about David Berkowitz. So he had been reading up on
Old
the
Berkey.
case. That book is
Ew.
called The Ultimate Evil, which discusses Arliss's murder, as well as a two-year-old suicide note he appeared to have written after he was interviewed by a detective during one of the regular ongoing reviews of the case. So he had been interviewed for years and years every time they picked back up this case. And he probably in the, around 2016 was probably realizing they're going to retest this DNA and they're going to be able to actually match it. And so he wrote a suicide note, and then he knew when the police walked up to his door, he knew the jig was up.
Oh my God. He was like an expert witness
They
for fucking years.
They probably had their guard down every time they talked to him because he'd been cleared so long ago, and he was a fellow cop essentially. And he knew how to play him.
His suicide left Arliss's surviving family frustrated by the lack of understanding
Yup.
of what motive he could have possibly had for killing
There's no
Arliss.
fucking closure that way.
There's no, the motive is he is a fucking murderous predator. That's
Right.
the motive. He had an opportunity.
Right, but they don't. The family doesn't get to see their day in court.
Of course not. Yeah. Because he's a coward. And I don't say that about people who die by suicide regularly, but this guy is a fucking murderer, rapist. Yeah. And he did this for cowardly reasons. So, A San Jose journalist named Scott Herhold, who covered the case extensively, has proposed that Crawford was motivated by his anger at the university. So Crawford had begun working as a police officer with the Stanford Department of Public Safety in 1971 after leaving the Air Force. And, well, we won't get into that, but there's the guy who they suspect is the Zodiac, had also formerly been in the Air Force. Anyway. However, the next year, a new police chief reassigned him to the nighttime security guard position because he did not believe him to be qualified to carry a gun. Mm-hmm. He probably fucked up somehow. And they were like, you're being demoted to security guard. And he was like, how dare you? I'm amazing. So according to Herhold, quote, he complained bitterly about it. He told friends he did not like what they were doing to him. After his demotion, Crawford began stealing things from offices when he patrolled at night. And some believe that Arliss's murder was an escalation of his rage against Stanford University.
Could
So
be.
he killed an innocent girl while she was praying in a church.
Yeah, it makes it like, yeah. I feel like
he was butthurt about being a nighttime security guard when he deserves to be more
He wanted to
revered
carry
than
a
that.
gun.
yeah.
Ugh, it's disgusting.
So Arliss's sister stated in a recent interview that her mother was, quote, still struggling with the why. She went on to say, I said, you know, Mom, I don't think we're ever going to know the why.
Yep. Oh, God, that is so fucking
Poor
heartbreaking.
family.
Yeah. So anyway, that is the fan pick case. It's a famous one. It is tragic. It is so heartbreaking what happened to this young woman.
I wonder.
And that fucking guy just lived his whole life.
The name coincidence really was unrelated.
Red herring.
That's so weird,
That
though.
is so
what
weird.
a weird red herring.
Yeah.
Ugh. Wow.
Jesus.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Good job.
I mean, you did great. I'm sorry that the fans keep doing this to you specifically.
Oh, she chose it.
I mean, it is a good twist, I will say.
You love a twist.
In Allie Johnson's defense, they did say in their email, if it's too gruesome, you don't have to cover it.
True. But we've done worse.
We've done worse. It's fine.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad, but we've done worse. All right. Are we ready for my case?
Maybe.
Is it better or worse?
No one dies.
Oh, great. Okay.
And
I'll
I
take
really
it.
love, after Kenyon covered her case, my case literally starts with me saying, in true Amanda fashion, I'm going to cover a pretty famous case that I had never heard of. So just pretend that you don't know stuff if you've heard of it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to Texas in 1991, where the grip of satanic panic still had its iron hold on white folks all over the state.
As did hairspray.
Yes.
It's iron grip.
It's iron grip
iron
on the
grip
bangs of the
that
Texas elite.
giant
The tube.
canister of hairspray.
Yeah, is the hole in the ozone layer just above Texas?
Yeah. Dallas, Fort Worth shaped.
And my mom's car.
That too. The grip was so much held, in fact, that a small faction of dedicated therapists would meet monthly in a community room in South Austin to discuss the perils of Satanism and how they believed it manifested in the patients they worked with.
People
Therapists.
Therapists.
have too much
Professionals.
fucking time on
Licensed
their
professionals.
hands.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They referred to these patterns as SRA, or satanic ritual abuse, and alleged that the majority of victims of SRA were children with spotty memories of the incidents,
Yeah.
or occasionally adults whose memories of SRA had been recovered, quote unquote, through therapy.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. The stories were usually the same across the board, victims reporting sexual abuse in the form of inappropriate touching that escalated to rape. This is not uncommon, and these reports are to be believed. Where things get muddy is the sexual abuse turning into bizarre satanic rituals, forced injections of hallucinogenic drugs, and forceful consumption of blood, feces, and flesh. which is, again, not to say that never happens, but that people all over the country, after like seeking therapy, are now remembering, and I'm using a lot of air quotes, these really horrific accounts that are very similar all over the place.
You just have to be so careful. Like, memories can be repressed.
Absolutely.
I believe that. Especially traumatic memories or memories of abuse. I believe that. But when you're dealing with that, you just need to be so careful not to
suggest,
implant.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally implant.
Right.
But people really believe that children were the victims of their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents in generations-old satanic cults, indoctrinating them into the next generation of Satanist devil worshippers. What
it's
we
not
forget.
Genetic.
No, I know.
It's tradition.
I know. What we forget is that children,
heritage.
especially children of abuse or trauma, are impressionable, as is anybody who's in that vulnerable state. And if therapists who are licensed and trusted to help are subscribing to outlandish shit, they're in a position to potentially use their influence to plant false memories and get false reports from clients.
And when did the satanic orgies begin?
Yeah, exactly.
Brendan Dassey.
Oh, poor Brendan Dassey. So in 1991, a 3-year-old girl was seeing a therapist to work through behavioral challenges that she was having that were brought on by the trauma of her parents' divorce.
Oh, God, 3 years old. You could suggest literally anything, they'll go with it.
Yeah, and she was already really struggling, like she was lashing out violently. And that's why her parents, rightfully so, enrolled
her therapy,
with a therapist to give her some tools for a young child to do some emotional regulation. During these sessions, the therapist alerted her parents that she, the client, the little girl, had alluded in their session to sexual abuse taking place at her daycare. The daycare she attended was run by Fran and Dan Keller in Oak Hill, Texas, a little neighborhood of Austin. The place was small, like the daycare was small and idyllic. It was run out of the charming cottage that they lived in full time. They only cared for 15 children per day and had bunnies, a pony, a playground, and a swimming pool. It was literally my heaven.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, like a really, really nice small daycare. When these accusations came out, the child's mother contacted the police to report this incident and pulled her child out of the daycare, which, again, that's the right call.
Yeah.
The prosecuting attorney assigned to this case had a friend whose child was also enrolled in this daycare, so he alerted them immediately, and that child was being seen by the same therapist who made the initial report. So 2 kids from this daycare are being seen by the same therapist.
That's just a coincidence.
Which is just a coincidence, yep. More and more parents were pulling their kids from Oak Hill, and Fran remembers getting ready for work one day to realize only 2 children were dropped off.
So word spread when really the prosecuting attorney really should not have spread the word.
Charges haven't even been... I get it.
I get it, too, because you want to protect kids.
Absolutely.
And if you truly believe it, you
This
would.
part of the story, I, don't have a problem with.
This is
like,
all
you're
human
believing
nature
kids,
at this point.
Yep, you're believing your child who's saying that they've experienced abuse in their daycare, and you're trying to protect your children. I have no problem with this whatsoever.
Right.
Pull your kids from the daycare.
Right. But also maybe get a second and third opinion from other therapy.
Therapy. So Fran, one of the wife and one of the co-owners of the daycare, was visited by a police officer who explained that Dan had been accused of abusing a child. She felt sick to her stomach and knew this couldn't possibly be true, which, like, anyone whose partner or loved one is accused of something horrific is going to be like, no way, there's no fucking way that happened.
Right.
As the story began to spread like wildfire, children at the daycare started to have similar stories about what was going on there. They claimed that Fran and Dan forced them to drink Kool-Aid with blood in it, that they would put on white robes and light candles and then abuse them, that they forced them to watch videos of animal abuse and dismemberment, that they'd seen the Kellers shoot someone passing by I got kind of conflicted stories, so...
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. It's going to sound weird, but some of the stories were
the
like...
The 3-year-olds had lined up.
Yeah. Some of the stories were saying that the kids were taken to, like, a graveyard and forced to, like, bury animals alive, and then somebody passing by the graveyard the Kellers shot them. And then another one was like, this was somebody passing by the daycare. So a passerby of somewhere, it's not real, so it doesn't matter, was shot and killed shot by the Kellers and then cut up with a chainsaw while the children watched. That the Kellers forced the children to engage in sexual acts with adults and each other while being filmed. Weird how no tapes ever were found, but again, it's possible. Some even claimed that the Kellers would fly the children, like the children were saying that they would fly them to Mexico after being dropped off at daycare to be sexually assaulted by soldiers, specifically in Mexico, and then fly them back to Austin before their parents had to pick them up from daycare that night.
Yeah. See, once you start getting into some of the wilder shit, that's when you need to be like,
okay. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Let's unpack this more with a different professional.
Lens, yeah.
A little objective.
So they were also accused by the children of burying kids alive with animals, throwing them in a swimming pool with sharks. That somehow they put sharks in their little pool in the backyard and tossed them in Austin, Texas.
Okay, all right, okay.
That some of the children were shot.
And their parents just
didn't notice.
Didn't notice when they came to pick them up.
Here's why. Because then they'd be resurrected after being shot.
Oh.
So that explains that. She turned me into a newt.
I got better.
Well, I got better. So this is obviously a lot.
Okay.
Once these stories began to circulate in the press, adults with, quote, recovered memories of satanic ritual abuse came forward to claim that this must be what's happening in the daycare because they had had similar experiences as children. Parents were beside themselves and came together to file charges against Fran and Dan. Children were wound up and subjected to repeated questioning by therapists and law enforcement, and accusations were flying around to teachers, public officials, and police officers alike of SRA. So it was just like,
and I saw Goody Fran with the devil.
Exactly. Quote, this country hasn't seen anything like it since the Salem witch trials, Texas Monthly wrote in 1994. From the Washington Post, quote, worried parents sent their children to therapists where they came back with tales pulled straight from horror movies. At one point in the investigation, the Statesman wrote, police had a suspect list of 26 ritual abusers, including many of the Kellers' neighbors and a respected Austin police captain. So they were just like throwing fucking allegations everywhere to anyone who even like knew the Kellers.
Jesus.
Outside of like having their child in the daycare.
Oh, God.
The literal panic just kept escalating in outlandish ways, and parents began to reinterpret day-to-day activities at the daycare as sinister omens, like how the kids would be sent home with like little American flags one day, and the parents interpreted these gifts as like a reminder not to tell.
It's like
that.
So they're just like seeing
it's
shit.
Like the case that I covered in like that Scottish Isle where they were like, oh, remember
it's a
you
code.
like turtles?
The turtles.
Yeah.
Oh, the turtles.
So it's worth noting, too, that by this time in the world, the bulk of satanic panic had kind of subsided. Like, this was the early 90s.
Texas is a little behind.
Texas was holding tight despite world news reports debunking the majority of the panic in the 80s. Quote, these tales are usually just that, figments of imagination, the New York Times wrote in 1994, citing a study by the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect that found not a single substantiated case of cult sex abuse among more than 11,000 cases reported to psychiatric and police workers. So these cases were prevalent and none of them were confirmed.
Like, if you're worried about child abuse, like, be worried about child abuse that actually happens.
Right.
And do something about it. Like, there is a lot of child abuse in the foster care system. There are, like, trans children, forced from their homes and living on the street. They're, like... abuse happens.
It's happening.
And you should care about it and try to do something about it.
Tom Hanks and Hillary Clinton aren't.
Yeah, you don't need to invent
aren't trafficking your kids.
Shit to worry about. There's plenty of real shit to worry about.
Yeah. Exactly. So what might have been a bad call, but also I get it. Fran and Dan left the state hoping to get the satanic heat off of them. They hadn't faced charges yet. Like, no charges had been brought on them.
I'd fucking get out of there too.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. But they later explained that they did this in order to avoid false charges. But obviously fleeing does look super sus. Authorities had already closed the daycare at the time that they fled the state. But, sorry, I'm burping. This did not keep them from receiving charges, and after a 6-day trial, they were sentenced to 48 years each for aggravated assault.
Oh my God.
The trial was 6 days long.
6 days. The evidence, ? The children's statements, and one alleged wound on a child's vagina, and we'll get to it. That's it. That's the only evidence that put them both behind bars for 48 years.
Oh my God.
Despite at least one of the children in court having this exchange while on the stand. So this says, on the witness stand, the little girl, which obviously they're all minors at this time, so there are no names, sat on her older sister's lap chewing on a lollipop. Did Danny ever touch you in a way you didn't like? Assistant District Attorney Judy Shipway asked. No, she replied. Did Fran ever touch you in a way you didn't like? Shipway asked. No, the girl replied. Shipway tried a different approach. Did Christina tell anyone else that Danny had hurt her? Oh, I guess I do use her name. She did not reply. Shipway asked if Christina would like to, quote, whisper to me her answer. No, she said. Christy, when you say no, do you mean you don't want to talk about it, or do you mean no, it didn't happen? No, it didn't happen, Christina replied once, and then again, no, it didn't happen. But did you tell somebody it happened? Shipway asked. Yes, 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 she answered. So this girl said...
A 3-year-old, you can say whatever you want to hear.
Anything.
Wouldn't be that hard.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this was that exact child, but one of the children in the daycare.
A child in daycare.
Exactly. So likely around the same age.
It has, they have to be young. If they're in year-round daycare, they're not in school.
Right. God. So Fran and Dan.
Sharks in their suburban pool.
I know.
Flights to Mexico.
Same day flights to and from Austin. The couple, Dan and Fran, were separated, obviously, and sent to their respective prisons. Fran to a women's penitentiary near Marlin, Texas, and Dan to a prison near Amarillo. They both were targeted within prison walls because of how universally hated perpetrators of child abuse are. Fran spent most of her time in prison evading attacks from other inmates with boiling water and housemaid shanks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. For 22 years, they lived this way, never seeing each other and just trying to survive and piece together how the fuck they got here in the first place.
They didn't do anything.
Nope. Stories and headlines about satanic panic and the daycare faded, and so did Fran and Dan for most people. But some allies remained and fought to defend their innocence.
I'm surprised anyone was willing to own a daycare ever again.
I know,
I'd be
right?
like, nah.
I'm out.
Yeah,
sorry.
not worth it.
Watch
Not
your
worth
own
it.
damn kids.
Not in fucking Texas.
Nope.
Fuck no. The Kellers caught a bit of a break in March of 2009.
Oh my God.
They were sentenced in the early 90s.
Jesus Christ.
When the Austin Chronicle released an article called Believing the Children, which went over the original trial and was like an investigative expose. They state plainly in the article, quote, the Chronicle's reinvestigation of the Fran's daycare case has revealed serious problems with the state's case against the Kellers, including questions about the quality and reliability of the state's medical evidence and forensic interviews. Moreover, the sensational nature of the charges themselves in a period of hysterical national rumors about supposed satanic ritual abuse at daycare centers made it virtually impossible for the Kellers to receive a fair trial or even rational trial.
Yeah,
Finally,
was the trial held in Austin?
I believe so. It was held in
sounds
Texas.
like it.
But that's what this article is saying, is that like they could have held it fucking anywhere. It was such a national sensation. The
Did People
satanic
magazine
panic
exist
shit.
at this time? I think it did.
I think it did. The 90s, yeah. Finally, our investigation has uncovered potentially exculpatory evidence that the Kellers' defense attorneys say they were not aware of at the time of the 1992 trial. In light of the problems with the original prosecution and this additional evidence, there remain substantive doubts that about the Kellers' guilt. Indeed, it's an open question not only whether the Kellers were rightly convicted, but more fundamentally, whether any crime ever happened at Fran's daycare at all. End quote. The only bit of physical evidence, like I said, presented at the trial originally had been an emergency room doctor's testimony regarding like a wound or a scratch. I couldn't really find out exactly what they said on a victim's vagina. Reevaluation of the case followed up with this doctor. So this Chronicle investigative team tracked this guy down and was like,
do you remember this?
Yeah.
What was it?
What the fuck? So I can't. He stated, quote, "I'll be straight up honest with you. I could have been wrong," and confessed that he simply wasn't educated enough in female anatomy.
Oh my fucking God.
So he likely mistook like a red mark, maybe a small scratch, like something that, I mean, I'm sorry, kids fucking explore their genitals. Shit happens.
They're running
They're
around,
running
you're
around
jumping,
playing.
you're playing, you're
climbing
you're riding on a
trees.
pony.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Mistook some totally
Also,
benign.
he's a doctor who's
doctor.
not familiar with half the population's anatomy.
And then testified in court and put two innocent, literally his testimony was the only physical evidence in this case. He put these people away for fucking 22 years of their lives.
It's okay, people, to
Oh my
say,
God.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. I can't confirm.
It's so fucking unethical and disgusting.
I think it's unethical. Oh, yes. And I just think it's so fucking mind-blowing and unethical and disgusting that a doctor can become a doctor without being familiar with female anatomy.
Well, you know.
It's like
who cares about that?
It's like every fucking drug study ever where they're just like, yeah, let's only test this on white men.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway. So after reading the expose in the Chronicle, a lawyer in Austin named Keith Hampton couldn't help but be horrified by how this went in this case, and began working to overturn the Kellers' convictions. In 2013, their appeal began.
Oh my God.
Focusing on the testimony of the ER doctor. Under oath at the appeal, the doctor confirmed he was mistaken and his previous testimony was false. This being the only physical evidence in the case, the court ruled to release the Kellers, who are now 68 and 72 years old.
Oh my God. I knew about the first half of this, but I had blocked out, I think, the convictions and the time.
They could have died in prison.
They could have. They could have.
Regardless, they spent so much fucking time in prison.
Their lives were destroyed. Completely destroyed. But their freedom was tainted by court record and public opinion. They were registered sex offenders in the eyes of the law. It would take another 2 years of court appearances for their records to be completely scrubbed of all charges with the appeals court, who unanimously moved to release them and overturn their convictions, but refused to declare the Kellers innocent until 2015.
That's insane.
What is always at the root of all fucking evil? Capitalism. Turns out folks are eligible for $80,000 from the state of Texas per year. Many states have this. Spent in prison when wrongfully convicted, but they can only get that money if declared officially innocent by the court system.
They didn't want to pay out?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can have your sentence overturned and you can be released from prison and still be guilty, like on the record.
Yeah.
And until they expunge that guilty and change it to innocent, the state doesn't have to pay you a fucking dime.
Oh my God.
So they just held out as long as they possibly could. So they were released in 2013, and then it wasn't until 2015. They fought for 2 fucking years in the court system to be like, no, we lost out on all of our livelihood and 22 fucking years of our lives and have nothing now. Like, you have to fucking pay.
Oh my God.
And while they waited for their much-earned payout, the Kellers survived on meager Social Security checks and the financial support of their friends. And just a reminder that, like, these folks are white. This likely would have played out very differently if they had been people of color.
They would have been lynched.
Yeah.
I mean, they likely could have died in prison or just never been fucking released.
Death penalty. It's
Yes.
Texas in the 90s.
And so, like, if you're listening and, you know, it's a fucked up reminder of white supremacy that, like, it can take something like this where you can see yourself in this potential situation. But, like, if you are sitting in white comfort thinking that, like, you're safe from systems of oppression, especially in the justice system, like, you're not. Like, none of us are until everyone is. So just, like, remember that. But the Kellers are now free, and they have $3.4 million that they received in
Nothing
their...
could replace what was
Nothing.
taken from them.
But, I mean, at least they fucking got paid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they've spent their third act, because now they're fucking elderly,
Yeah.
as activists helping others who are behind bars on wrongful
Are
convictions.
they together? Because
Yes.
they probably had no communication for
None. They did-
22 years.
I think they were able to write each other some letters and the
Ooh,
occasional phone call, but they didn't see each other for 22 years.
I have goosebumps. This is horrible.
Yeah, there's some photos of them on the drive, like, after, I think one of them is them, like, holding hands right after they were released.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, look at Fran. She's so cute.
I know. And then there's a picture of Fran who was, like, 2 years later on the phone hearing that their settlement is finally being paid, and she's just, like, sobbing.
God.
It's just so much. And then, yeah, there's some photos of them when they first were arrested. Like, just this mom and pop, you know,
Yeah.
folks.
She's so cute. I can't even get over how cute she is. And then, like, the torture that they endured in prison because they were so reviled in prison.
Right.
And they're completely fucking innocent. And
They didn't
just
do
had this
anything.
little sweet little daycare with a pony. And,
Jesus Christ.
I mean, this could easily be like a therapist crimes episode because clearly some fucked up shit and, you know, suggestive shit to vulnerable children was going on behind closed doors, and then it just, like, spread like wildfire.
And suggesting shit to vulnerable children, I'm sorry, that is harmful.
Yes.
That's
you
abuse.
are harming that child.
Yeah.
Where are those charges
Uh-huh.
for people who maybe they were trying to help, but you caused trauma by inventing this shit in a young child's brain?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It goes deep, people.
Wow.
It's fucked up. But isn't that story wild?
That's wild.
I had forgotten that they were convicted. I knew about the hysteria and everything, and I forgot
Well, and, like,
just how far it went.
this was just one of, around that time, a lot of these weird, like, daycare accusations, too.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't remember this specific story, but I remember as I was doing my research, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about this.
Mm-hmm.
About, like, daycares all over the country, but holy shit. Anyway, that's my case. Good Lord Almighty.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, we started with daycare in this episode, and we ended with daycare.
Yeah.
Now
Thanks,
I'm going to go
Allie
care
Johnson.
for myself during the day. Thanks, fanficker Allie.
Self-care.
Oh,
We'll talk to you next week.
God bless.
See you later.
Bye-bye.